This is just the beginning. To uncover more of humanity's journey in the stars, subscribe and join us for the next thrilling chapter. Before a cliffhanger, right at a pivotal moment in the story, you can tease the next episode with a hint for viewers to subscribe. The alien ambassadorial vessel hovered quietly in orbit above the edge of the solar system, its smooth hull pulsing with a faint luminescent glow. Inside, diplomats from the Imperial Coalition of Sentient Systems leaned over their observation panels, their eyes fixed on the distant blue orb and the fleet of human ships orbiting it. For years, their kind had observed Earth and its inhabitants, mostly out of curiosity, and sometimes with the faintest glimmer of amusement. Humans, after all, were a young species, limited by the confines of their own system and entirely unremarkable in the grand scheme of galactic history, or so they had thought. The lead diplomat, a stern figure named Karak with skin that shimmered a muted silver, muttered, "And here we are, yet again, observing a species content to orbit their own planet. Primitive, wouldn't you say, Talek?" Talek, one of the younger diplomats with a touch more curiosity than his seniors, nodded absently. "Perhaps, Karak. But there's something intriguing about them. I've studied their files. They advance quickly for a species with such limited resources. The humans might surprise us yet." Karak chuckled, a low rumbling sound. "Surprise us? They lack even the most basic fusion tech. Their ships are clumsy, hardly capable of a jump without assistance. What could they possibly offer the galaxy?" Talek didn't respond, instead observing the feed from their scanner. His eyes narrowed as he noticed something curious. "Karak, look at that ship." Karak turned, mildly annoyed. Before them was an enormous human vessel, starkly different from the smaller, fragile crafts they were accustomed to. This one was vast, dwarfing its surroundings. It glowed faintly with a strange, otherworldly light, unlike anything they had encountered. More disturbingly, its energy readings spiked in ways their scanners struggled to interpret. "How peculiar!" Karak murmured, leaning closer. The ship was quiet, moving with the steady grace of a predator, calm yet undeniably powerful. "Do you think?" Talek hesitated. "Do you think it's some kind of attempt at mimicry? Perhaps they've finally learned something from observing us and our technology." Karak shook his head. "Imitation doesn't account for power output like that. Their primitive reactors can't produce this much energy without some outside influence." Just as he finished speaking, the ship's hull shimmered, revealing subtle, shifting colors along its structure. The diplomats held their breath. A holographic projection flickered to life near the ship, displaying an interface none of the diplomats had ever seen. A voice cut through the silence of the alien vessel, speaking in fluent Coalition standard. "This is the UNS Celestial Veil of the United Earth Fleet. Identify yourselves." The diplomats stared, momentarily speechless. Not only had the humans detected them, but they had managed to broadcast across protected Coalition frequencies. Karak was the first to recover, his voice carefully neutral. "This is Ambassador Karak of the Imperial Coalition of Sentient Systems. Your presence is unexpected." There was a brief silence before the human responded. "We could say the same of you. Our ship has detected your vessel in Earth's orbit. Are you here for diplomatic reasons?" Karak struggled to maintain his composure, masking his surprise with practiced ease. He never expected a human ship to be this advanced, much less to detect them. "Of course, we are here for peaceful observation. Humanity has always intrigued our kind, and it is our duty to maintain contact with rising species in this sector." The human's voice softened. "Then allow us to welcome you, Ambassador. We'd be happy to provide a tour of our vessel if you'd care to join us." Talek exchanged a glance with Karak, eyebrows raised. A tour? Such an offer was not common in diplomatic exchanges, especially from a species previously deemed inferior. The suggestion alone was bold, bordering on audacious. Karak hesitated, feeling a twinge of unease. Still, refusing might imply weakness. "We accept your invitation," Karak replied carefully. "A delegation will join you shortly." As the diplomats prepared, Talek whispered to Karak, "Is this wise? We know so little about that ship's capabilities. Karak waved him off. We will assess their progress firsthand. This is the closest look we will get at their technology. Such an opportunity may not come again. They were escorted into the heart of the human ship, the Celestial Veil. The first thing Karak noticed was the quiet hum surrounding them, the steady, low thrum of an energy source unlike any he'd encountered. Panels lined the walls, displaying complex information in human script and visuals that seemed incomprehensibly advanced for a species of Earth's level. This ship was no mere exploratory vessel. It was a fortress. Their guide, a human officer with an unreadable expression, led them through halls of gleaming metal and intricate circuitry. Talek's gaze darted around, trying to absorb every detail. They passed through the main energy bay, and a vast core pulsed at the ship's center, radiating a quiet yet overwhelming power. Karak cleared his throat. Your ship, it is quite advanced. A marvel of engineering. The officer nodded. Thank you. The Celestial Veil is one of our supernova-class ships. Capable of harnessing energy from stellar events, primarily supernova remnants. The core you're looking at channels that energy, storing it in a way we can utilize over vast distances. The diplomats paused, struggling to grasp the implications. Karak narrowed his eyes. Supernova remnants? You harvest the energy of stars? The human nodded, as if it were the most natural thing in the universe. Only when necessary. It's a volatile source, but with the right engineering, quite stable and efficient. Talek whispered to Karak, disbelief evident in his voice. This is beyond anything we imagined. They're harnessing powers we barely understand. As they moved through the ship, Karak's initial confidence began to wane. The technology, the seamless interface, and the sheer power radiating from this vessel defied all preconceptions he held of humanity. It was not just a simple step forward for them, it was a leap beyond what the Coalition had even deemed possible for humans. The human officer continued, unfazed by their expressions. Our supernova technology was developed in response to increasing dangers from beyond our system. We needed something more reliable than traditional energy sources to maintain autonomy in unknown territories. Talek asked, his voice shaking. And you've mastered this technology? Enough to travel across galaxies? More or less, the officer replied calmly. We're aware of the risks but have adapted to mitigate them. This vessel, for instance, can jump without needing refuel assistance for over a year. We didn't realize we'd get visitors so soon, though. Karak nodded, his initial skepticism replaced with a grudging respect. Perhaps, Ambassador, we have underestimated your kind. This ship, it is a testament to your resilience and innovation. The officer smiled faintly, and Karak realized the depth of human tenacity, something he had once dismissed as mere ambition. They had not only matched the galaxy's expectations but exceeded them, venturing into realms few dared to tread. As they turned to leave, Talek looked back at the core, its energy pulsing steadily. Thank you for showing us the Celestial Veil, he said, voice filled with a newfound respect. The officer nodded. Consider it a welcome. We look forward to seeing how our paths may cross in the future. The human officers led the alien diplomats to the core control deck, where a dense, shimmering field of energy flickered within a massive containment chamber. Karak and Talek watched, their initial amazement turning into stunned silence as the human officer activated a series of controls with swift precision. A display illuminated, showing energy readings spiking, far exceeding anything they had seen even in Coalition fleets. As if reading their astonishment, the human officer explained in a calm, measured tone. The Celestial Veil is capable of harnessing residual supernova energy, using it to amplify propulsion, weaponry, and defense. Karak attempted to maintain his diplomatic composure, but there was an unmistakable tension in his voice as he asked, Residual supernova energy? How does this function safely? The human officer tilted his head slightly, studying Karak's reaction. Our engineers have designed systems that allow us to harvest these immense energies without breaching containment or risking the ship. The core can handle volatile reactions by utilizing a series of fusion moderators and energy redistribution matrices. Karak's mind raced, trying to fathom how this relatively young species had managed to safely handle and control the residual energy of collapsed stars. This was no crude technological leap. It represented an understanding of energy physics that rivaled, if not surpassed, what the coalition had achieved. He glanced at Talek, who seemed equally shaken but entirely captivated by what he was witnessing. The officer continued, gesturing toward the containment field. "Would you like a demonstration? It's controlled and within safety parameters, of course." He adjusted the panel, and a low, powerful hum reverberated through the core. Moments later, the field shifted, and an energy burst was directed toward a nearby containment target. In an instant, the target vaporized, leaving no trace. Karak and Talek both felt the gravity of what they were seeing, a force strong enough to obliterate matter with surgical precision, harnessed by a species they had assumed was barely scraping the surface of interstellar travel. "This level of energy manipulation," Talek murmured, his voice a whisper of awe. "It's unprecedented. To control something so volatile without triggering catastrophic reactions. How did you achieve this?" The human officer's gaze was steady, unyielding. "By understanding that stability is key. Each energy matrix is layered and constantly monitored by AI that adapts to shifts in real time. The AI systems are trained to anticipate any irregularities, isolating them before they escalate." Karak couldn't hide his disbelief. "AI? You've entrusted the fate of your ship to artificial intelligence?" The human officer offered a faint smile. "Trust might not be the best term. We co-evolved with it. The AI is merely an extension of our systems, fine-tuning our calculations, ensuring that nothing is left to chance." His tone hinted at the profound integration humans had achieved between their technology and autonomy, a bond neither of the diplomats had considered feasible. Talek stepped closer to examine the control interface, a seamless blend of organic input and digital feedback. He studied the design, noting its elegant simplicity, its balance of human touch and technological prowess. "And this control system, it adapts to changing conditions automatically?" "Yes," the officer confirmed. "The ship can self-correct, recalibrating on the fly without manual input. In an unstable region of space or during a combat scenario, our Supernova-class ships can manage their own energy allocation, enhancing shields, optimizing propulsion, or focusing power to weapon systems within milliseconds." Karak found himself grappling with the implications. "So your technology isn't simply an advance in weaponry or propulsion. You've created a vessel that functions as a self-contained ecosystem, constantly adapting to maintain peak efficiency in any scenario." The officer nodded, acknowledging the observation with a hint of pride. "Exactly. The Celestial Veil isn't just a ship, it's a strategy, an extension of our own resilience and adaptability." For a brief moment, the diplomats were silent, processing this revelation. The implications were staggering. This was a ship that, in essence, anticipated and adapted to threats before they fully materialized, eliminating the need for reactive responses. It was a concept so alien to the Coalition's rigid, hierarchical approach that it bordered on revolutionary. The officer turned to face the diplomats, his expression calm but carrying the weight of a warning. "We developed this technology because we've had to adapt quickly to threats far beyond our borders. The supernova core was created not for conquest but for survival." Talek was visibly taken aback, absorbing the underlying message. "You've encountered hostilities, ones that required this level of power?" The human's gaze held theirs unwaveringly. "Yes, we've learned that the universe is vast and often unforgiving. So we prepared, equipped ourselves to face whatever may lie beyond our understanding." Karak's mind struggled to reconcile the peaceful diplomacy they were witnessing with the overwhelming force he now knew humans could unleash. He felt a faint shiver as he realized that this power wasn't merely theoretical. The demonstration had been controlled, yet it had left a profound impression, as if reminding them that humanity had mastered both restraint and intensity, channeling each in precisely calculated doses. The officer led them toward the ship's observation deck, where they could see a distant nebula. As they watched, he continued, "We didn't rush to achieve this. The celestial veil represents years of trial, failure, and relentless progress. We refined our techniques over countless challenges, each step built on the previous. Karak couldn't suppress a grudging admiration. I underestimated your kind. To control power so immense without succumbing to its danger requires discipline few species possess. Many civilizations rise and fall on the blade of unchecked ambition. Precisely, the officer replied, his tone grave. Power without control is nothing but destruction. Humanity has learned to wield its strength, not to seek domination but to ensure our survival in a universe full of unknowns. As he spoke, Karak found himself wondering about the broader implications. If humans had reached this level, what else had they accomplished in secret? What other advancements had gone unseen by the Coalition, hidden beneath Earth's unassuming exterior? Talek voiced what Karak was thinking. This ship alone defies our estimates of human capability. How many more ships like the Celestial Veil do you have? The officer hesitated, his eyes narrowing slightly. We have enough. The ambiguity of his response was chilling, leaving no indication of scale. Enough. It was a term vague enough to imply anything from a handful to an entire fleet, but powerful enough to instill caution. Karak felt the weight of those words, sensing they were carefully chosen. The officer didn't intend to deceive, he simply reminded them of humanity's unpredictability. As they returned to the docking bay, Karak cast a final glance at the shimmering core. The potential he had witnessed, combined with the restraint humans exhibited, painted a picture of a species unlike any he had encountered. Their technological leap wasn't simply one of power, it was tempered with purpose, a balance that Coalition civilizations struggled to achieve. When the diplomats boarded their vessel, Karak's mind was filled with conflicting thoughts, a dissonance he rarely experienced. As their ship departed, he watched the celestial veil fade into the void, its glowing core a reminder of the complex, formidable potential of humanity. In the silence of the observation deck, he turned to Talek. We may have just witnessed a turning point. Humanity is more than a young species, they are a force, a presence we cannot afford to overlook. Karak and Talek returned to the diplomatic chamber aboard the Celestial Veil, now acutely aware of the sheer might humans had under their command. They composed themselves, facing the human captain, a calm figure radiating the confidence of one fully aware of the significance of this encounter. With the controlled ease that came only from countless diplomatic negotiations, Karak took the lead, nodding respectfully. We are impressed, Captain. Humanity's progress has clearly outpaced our projections. This technology, this adaptability, Karak began, choosing his words carefully. It is both commendable and somewhat unexpected. The captain inclined his head in acknowledgement. We appreciate your interest in our development, Ambassador. Humanity has had to learn fast in a universe that doesn't always offer second chances. His tone was polite, neutral, yet there was a hint of pride beneath the restraint. Talek, still wrestling with the revelations from their tour, leaned forward. If I may ask, Captain, what prompted humanity to seek such formidable advancements? The ability to harness supernova remnants, the creation of autonomous adaptive systems, these are no small feats. The captain's gaze didn't falter. Let's just say we encountered situations that pushed us to our limits. When survival is uncertain, you either adapt or you cease to exist. We chose to adapt. Karak exchanged a glance with Talek, picking up on the layered implications of the captain's words. It was clear now that humanity's evolution was more than the product of ambition, it had been a necessity. But what exactly had driven them to such extremes? Adaptation is a quality all species strive for, Karak responded. But such advancement usually requires cooperation, alliances. I wonder how much assistance your species received, and from whom? The captain's eyes narrowed almost imperceptibly. You might be surprised to hear that we have had very little external assistance. Our journey was largely self-driven. Humanity has learned to stand on its own 2 feet, sometimes in spite of obstacles placed by others. Talek sensed a subtle tension in the air. The Coalition had often observed and judged Earth, but they had rarely reached out. The unspoken truth settled between them. Humans had grown strong, independent, and evidently, less reliant on alliances with the coalition. Karak sensed that any further questioning about humanity's alliances might border on intrusive. Shifting tack, he decided to probe further into the ship's purpose and broader intentions. "If you'll pardon my curiosity, Captain," Karak said, "such a vessel surely has purposes beyond mere exploration. What, then, is the Celestial Veil's primary mission?" The captain paused, measuring his words with care. "Its purpose is to protect and preserve our people, our way of life. In a galaxy where countless species vie for control, we felt it prudent to secure our independence. Peace is our primary objective, but we recognize that peace sometimes requires strength." There it was, a carefully constructed statement, but the meaning was unmistakable. This was no aggressive species set on expansion but a cautious one, determined to maintain sovereignty. Karak considered this, aware of the underlying message. The coalition prided itself on peaceful alliances, yet it had taken centuries to establish those. Humanity, meanwhile, had achieved a level of autonomy that many coalition species still struggled with. Talek's curiosity got the better of him. "Captain, does this imply humanity has encountered hostilities that forced you to such lengths?" The captain hesitated for a fraction of a second. "Yes. There have been encounters. They haven't all been friendly, nor have they always been avoidable. We learned the hard way that there are entities out there who believe strength is the only universal language. So, we prepared ourselves to speak it if we had to." The statement left a lasting impression. Humanity had not only advanced through its own resourcefulness but had also endured real, tangible threats. Karak felt a flicker of respect he hadn't anticipated. It wasn't arrogance that led these humans to harness the power of dying stars. It was a fierce commitment to safeguarding their species' future. After a moment of contemplation, Karak said, "Then, in light of your history, may I propose something bold, Captain? An alliance between humanity and the Coalition, a true partnership that would benefit us all. Together, our resources and knowledge could secure the stability of this region of space." The captain's expression shifted, revealing a moment of genuine consideration. But his response was carefully guarded. "We appreciate the offer, Ambassador. Truly. But as I mentioned, humanity has found strength in independence. While we are open to cooperation, we would prefer an alliance that respects our autonomy and doesn't seek to absorb us into a larger network." Karak nodded, having expected as much. This was not a civilization ready to submit to coalition protocols, not after proving its resilience through self-reliance. Still, he recognized the value of a partnership with such a uniquely adaptable species. "Of course, Captain," he replied. "We would never dream of imposing upon your autonomy. The Coalition has always respected the individual sovereignty of its members. Our interest lies in mutual growth, sharing knowledge and resources in ways that benefit both parties." The captain's eyes softened, though his demeanor remained cautious. "In that case, we'd be open to exploring such an arrangement. However, I must be clear, humanity's role would be as an equal partner. We have our own ways, and we won't compromise our principles." Talek interjected gently. "That is precisely what makes you valuable, Captain. Humanity's fresh perspective, its ingenuity, these are qualities the Coalition could learn from. We've existed in our structure for so long that we sometimes forget the importance of adaptability." The captain's gaze held both warmth and resolve. "Then we may have something to offer each other, after all." There was a moment of silence, an unspoken understanding. Humanity had reached a level of competence and resilience that deserved respect, not paternalism. This encounter, Karak realized, was more than a diplomatic formality. It was a crossroads, an opportunity to reshape the Coalition's perception of humanity. Karak chose his next words carefully, aware of the weight they carried. "Captain, we will bring this proposal back to the Coalition. I have a feeling this could mark the beginning of a new era, one defined by collaboration and mutual respect." The captain inclined his head. "I believe it could. Humanity stands ready to build, not conquer. But we won't let our independence be compromised. We fought hard for it. Talek, sensing the gravity of the moment, added. And that is why we respect you. Perhaps it's time the Coalition recognized that strength can come in many forms. The captain offered a slight, approving smile. Then we look forward to seeing where this path might lead us, Ambassador. As the ambassadors returned to their vessel, a profound shift had taken place within them. Karak, who had always viewed humanity through the lens of measured diplomacy, now saw a species capable of reshaping the galaxy's balance of power. Talek sensed it too, his own curiosity turning to admiration for a civilization that had emerged independently and determinedly in the face of adversity. The diplomatic report they prepared would be a challenge. Describing humanity's supernova-class vessels, their mastery over stellar remnants, and their unwavering dedication to autonomy would demand careful language. Karak knew he'd have to frame humanity as an entity with respect for peace yet fully prepared to defend itself, an enigma in the galaxy's complex web of alliances and hierarchies. And it wasn't simply the technology that had made such an impression. It was humanity's unyielding independence, a unique quality within a coalition often focused on conformity for the sake of stability. As Karak prepared his report, the coalition's central command would need to decide how to proceed. Typically, they sought to integrate promising species gradually, absorbing them within established guidelines and doctrines. Yet this time, Karak doubted such an approach would work. Humanity was not a civilization seeking protection or resources. They had reached a level of resilience and self-sufficiency that demanded respect, even from the coalition. Meanwhile, news of the encounter began to ripple across the galaxy. Coalition analysts were quick to assess humanity's potential impact, reviewing the technology and raw power the celestial veil represented. Debate erupted among the coalition's member species. Some saw humanity as an asset, while others viewed them as a potential threat. The question of humanity's intentions dominated discussions, as factions aligned along lines of alliance or caution. A narrative began to form. Humanity, an upstart species, had defied expectations, bringing supernova-powered vessels into the galaxy's fold and doing so with an unyielding sense of sovereignty. Back on Earth, word of the Coalition's response trickled through diplomatic channels, reaching the captain of the Celestial Veil. Humanity, the captain realized, was now a topic of contention within a galaxy that had likely never considered Earth a real factor in its calculations. But now, the decisions made on Earth's behalf could ripple outward, shaping the future of interspecies relations. The Coalition reached out again, extending an official invitation to humanity to join as a respected, autonomous member, a status rarely offered. For the Coalition, this was a significant gesture, a recognition of humanity's achievements and their rightful place among the galaxy's civilizations. Yet the conditions were carefully outlined: access to the Coalition's trade routes, mutual defense agreements, but with the understanding that humanity's supernova technology could not be used aggressively or irresponsibly. Humanity would retain its independence but would be subject to a certain level of oversight. The captain reviewed the terms with careful consideration. Earth's leaders debated intensely. Some viewed the Coalition's offer as a historic opportunity for humanity, a chance to secure peace through alliance while gaining access to a wealth of resources and knowledge. But others argued that such a union could compromise the very independence humanity had fought to achieve. They feared the Coalition's oversight might evolve into control, diluting humanity's unique identity and reducing their accomplishments to mere extensions of the Coalition's reach. In a final meeting with Coalition representatives, the captain delivered humanity's response. With calm conviction, he explained that humanity would accept the invitation, but with clear stipulations. The Celestial Veil and its technology would remain under human command alone, and any attempts to impose restrictions beyond mutual respect would be grounds for withdrawal. Humanity, he made clear, valued peace and collaboration, but not at the expense of their autonomy. They would contribute as equal partners, no less and no more. The Coalition's leaders listened, sensing both the determination and the potential within humanity's stance. The terms were unconventional, almost unprecedented, yet the Coalition recognized the wisdom in allowing this new member a certain freedom. The galaxy had much to gain from humanity's unique strengths, and perhaps it was time to let a species that had carved its own path continue doing so. From that moment, humanity's place in the galaxy was secured. The celestial veil returned to Earth with a new mission, to act as a bridge between humanity and the Coalition, symbolizing the balance of power and respect. Coalition diplomats observed that, despite their initial expectations, humanity had not sought to expand recklessly or impose itself. Rather, they brought innovation and cooperation, reshaping the galaxy's perception of what it meant to be strong, autonomous, and capable of partnership. In the following years, humanity's influence grew subtly but steadily. Other species, inspired by Earth's achievements, began to reconsider their own approaches to governance, autonomy, and development. Humanity's presence became a catalyst for broader change within the Coalition, one that respected diversity and paths to progress. Slowly, the Coalition evolved, allowing its members greater freedom in deciding their futures and acknowledging that one size did not fit all. The supernova technology remained a hallmark of human engineering, a reminder that great power could be wielded responsibly without falling into the traps of control or domination. For the human crew of the Celestial Veil, the experience had brought a profound sense of purpose. They were no longer just explorers or defenders. They were representatives of a species that had defied expectations and reshaped the galaxy's understanding of autonomy and alliance. And for Karak and Talek, the encounter remained a turning point, a moment in which they had witnessed not only the power of a new ally but also the beginning of a new era for the Coalition itself. In the years to follow, humanity's legacy would be one of resilience, collaboration, and a reminder that even the youngest species could bring fresh perspectives to an ancient galaxy.